or either, or yes or no, or good or bad, that we're constantly trying to figure out, are we individuals or are we one? Are we good or are we bad? Are we happy or are we sad? Instead of, just coming into the realization that you're all of those things at once. But it's so insidious. You will sit forever and contemplate the meaning of one versus many, and until you come into the realization of it. And it's a game I'm obviously still playing with myself, because if I have an identity called Jake Kotze and I do work, then I feel like I'm still playing a game with myself and my environment.
That's interesting. I also keep bumping up to the idea in regards to free will. Because it seems like we are, in a sense, playing out a game, and often or not, these coincidences come to us as an external force, or at least they come to us in that way that we interpret them as something external, and it might be that it is something internal or something that is part of our overmind in that sense. But in regards to free will, do you see this is a conundrum, so to speak? How's your view on it?
It's actually not a conundrum, but it's a very valid sort of thing, and that I will have to remind myself 10 times a day about how it really works, and then even like probably for weeks I'll go when I forget it again. But it's sort of like Alan Watts totally explained this. I don't know if you're familiar with Alan Watts. He was a Zen teacher. And he was really great at sort of untying these knots in your mind. And he was sort of explaining the problem with free will is there's no one to have free will, because you're not an individual. So there is, it's like determinism. There is no individual to be determined. So there is the conundrum doesn't really exist. It's just, again, us trying to put things into boxes that causes the problem to begin with. So it's more like the question itself is part of the problem. And that's sort of a Zen mystical insight, really. It's the snake eating its own tail over and over.
I see. That's interesting in regards also to, I think it was Terence McKenna who was talking about the necessity for us to being able to also divide up things. And here I think that the ego comes in. I think that he simply stated that it's a good thing in regards to that we have the ego, because it prevents you from putting food into someone else's mouth instead of your own.
Yes. It's a tool that we're using, and something that we're having to learn to discard as we move up into this speculated higher state of consciousness that it feels to me like we are moving into. But depending on what you're looking at the moment, like if you look at CNN, you'll think, we're about to blow ourselves up. And if you read some good website or something, look at a good work of art, you might think, wow, we're about to reach cosmic illumination, or the aliens are about to contact us all en masse, or something like that. Then you watch CNN again and you're like, oh, it's all over. So everything's happening. It's great. I totally agree. It feels like we are subjected to so many different views, or I guess as Robert Anton Wilson would say, reality tunnels. That's right, yeah. And we can pick and choose, I guess, where we kind of want to be in regards to our view of the world, because I remember going back again to the Mayan calendar, reading the work of Carl Johan Kalleman, a Swedish scientist who have decoded basically in his own interpretation the Mayan calendar, and kind of picked it apart and stated that we are in these different development stages and so forth. And he expressed the idea that we are going into more and more are becoming available in regards to how we view things, and also of course how all of time is kind of speeding up. And I think that being in the world and as you say, turning on CNN and in one instance, and then turning to something else, we can quickly flash between all of these different realities. Would you agree on that? I definitely agree with that. Yeah, it's sort of, you have to learn to be able to shift between different belief systems and use the correct one, the correct model, the one that fits the information the best at any given point, and then, to switch back to another one and then not, get it all muddled so that you feel like you're schizophrenic or something. But I think people are starting to develop these techniques, and they're just, it's becoming like a natural process that might be invisible to the individual, might not even, have the vocabulary to explain it to themselves. But things like the internet is sort of like giving you all these different reality tunnels to view.
Yeah.
You look at the mainstream one by going to CNN. You can look at the more subversive one by going to Infowars, or you can go to the crazy side by going to my blog or somebody else's work. Or not the crazy one, but the far more like fractal and
sure.
emergent sort of. I don't know how to describe it, but sure. there's a few people I feel who are following this new sort of way of seeing everything as interconnected. Like Goro at Etemenanki also does this sort of work, and he's got an amazing reality tunnel. And it's sort of like you have to learn to see through a person's eyes to decode their work, and then learn to see through another person's eyes every time you're looking at their work and their art. So we're doing it conscious all day.
I totally agree. It also feels like a lot of people are beginning to, in regards to that, we're able to have these kinds of communications and of course over the internet in that sense, but we're also, as we go along here, developing this, view upon the world very, very quickly, I guess. It is almost to me as incorporating into our world view another, dimension, basically.
That's right. It's really amazing what is happening if you think about the internet. It's sort of like a psychedelic drug. It's with the definition of psychedelic, the way I understand it, it's what makes your mind visible, and it's like all these people's minds all over the world that are contributing to the internet, they're becoming visible. Like you can see my blog, I can see Red Ice Radio, I can see your thoughts taking shape. Like the network is building this mind that is almost invisible because we can't find it except from the screens, but we're able to see each other's thought processes. It's making the global mind visible, and it's really fascinating and bizarre, and sometimes scary, sometimes wonderful. It's all things. It's really amazing.
Sure.
I think a brilliant person to research the technological aspect of this is Mark Pesce. I don't know if you're familiar with.
No. Tell me about him.
Well, he invented VRML, it's the virtual reality modeling language, and he was working on the virtual reality headsets when they were coming out. when everybody thought we were all going to wear these headsets and we'd be like in this virtual reality world like in 5 years, but then that just never happened. And that was because they realized that the screen was going to make you blind after a while if you stare at it so close to your eyes.
Oh my God.
Depth perception problems, so they had to stop that idea. And Mark Pesce knew personally Terence McKenna, and you can listen to lectures where he's talking with Terence McKenna at seminars, and he has his own blog, and he has great work, and he writes a lot about nanotechnology, futurism. Also, he has videos online. He's the best person to research this stuff.
Interesting. Mark Pesce, you said?
Mark Pesce, yeah. I'd look into it. He's got great videos on Google Video, etc.
Interesting.
All about how Wikipedia and YouTube and all these things are changing the collective mind, and the way we share information and ideas and communication. Just really, in a really sort of spiritual way, he's doing this incredible work. It's good.
Interesting. Sounds very interesting. I read this from one of your postings in regards to Wikipedia, and I think that it's very true. I've been, ever since I catched on to Wikipedia and kind of, actually realized what it actually is doing with our, in that sense, collective knowledge. And even though we have this problem, of course, with, if things are true or not on that site, so forth, I think that at this moment is beyond, the issue, because it's interesting to look upon Wikipedia as an entity in itself that actually
That's right.
incorporates, our collective knowledge of, this is where we say collectively, this is what's going on this subject or whatever. And
it's a consensus. It's a way of viewing what the consensus opinion is about a given subject.
Sure, exactly.
It's not going to give you the answer, like nothing will, but I mean, it'll give you an overview, which is amazing, of what the rough average is of a topic. And it's like movie database is the same thing. The whole planet voting on a movie and giving it an aggregate score. It's beautiful, because even if you don't agree with it, you can go see what the collective mind thinks about a movie.
Exactly.
And they're all beginning to get linked with each other. Wikipedia is becoming linked with YouTube, and YouTube's going to get linked with this, and Google, and it's all going to, it's going to be, I don't know, and it's all happening like lightning fast. So it's hard to keep track, but it's fascinating, and when you really start to think about it, it's breathtaking.
This takes me into the idea of one of our, I guess, collective nightmares. If we take the Borg scenario from Star Trek or something like that we're actually moving into this kind of hive mind that actually is connected. I mean, many people out there are scared, I guess, or concerned in regards to the fact that we are, being able to develop technologies that connects the brain directly to the internet. We have of course, the microchip going in people and so forth, and this would really kind of develop the whole idea of the electronic hive mind, or the insectoid being developed here. Do you see this as a concern at all?
Well, I do. I think that the key word that you used there was the fear. It's like people's fears will, I mean, it's good to think ahead and to be aware of, possibly steering yourself in a direction. But fear itself is, usually a sign that you're just not ready to make the leap. It's usually your friend, fear. You're saying to yourself, here's an area where I feel scared, and then you can realize, well, that's exactly the area where I need to develop myself. So the fear about the future is basically, the fear about evolving, the fear about accepting what we're becoming, and there are these dark scenarios that could play out, but I think they're our friend in a way, and if we learn to just look at them from the right angle, we'll realize that the fear itself is just highlighting the areas that we need to just, be careful with, and then we can move on.
Sure, I totally agree. That's an interesting way of looking at it. So, I mean, do you think that we are going in this, area? Let's say incorporating technology into, our own. I guess taking our, the evolution of our species in our own hands in that regard, that we are able to, improve the body and even the mind, I guess, in that sense. Do you think we are moving in that area?
Wow. Like, I can't, if I try and project forward, like, I keep feeling like it gets like a smaller and smaller distance that I can project forward to, because it just becomes so difficult, because there's so many factors changing the whole system at such a speed. Yeah. That to make any kind of prediction about the future when it comes to technologies and how that'll interact with our bodies, and I can't tell. I just can't tell, because I feel like in the 50s people were projecting forward and seeing, we'll have flying cars and this and that. But now nobody or very few people would seriously sit and project, what will the world look like in 50 years? Because you just can't do it. There's just, the world looks entirely different. If you're removing yourself a bit, if you're in the flow, you can't notice it. But if you just move your head a little bit out of the flow, you can sort of see how fast things are changing, and to make predictions about what it'll look like, and even like a year from now, I have no idea. It was something like Wikipedia jumped out of nowhere and changed my entire life, and YouTube jumped out of nowhere and changed my life. Like,